So this will be a little bit of a different talk for you guys. Instead of talking about pipelines and deep analysis and algorithms, this is really just a presentation. Hey, this is a presentation of, hey, we have a new type of data. We have a new data set that no one's ever had access to before. And I wanted to let you guys know about it and give you a preview into it and also give you guys some examples that you could. Is that better? Is that better? All right, can you guys, that's better? Okay. All right, that's kind of weird. So, all right, let me start over then. So I'm here at, this talk will be a little different. It's not about pipelines. It's not about deep analytics. It's not about, you know, machine learning and modeling. It's the data part, and it's introducing you guys to a new data set. This data has never been available before. So I did my postdoc in machine learning, and whenever that new data set hit from your experiment, like you got all excited, right? And so hopefully I can impart some of that on you. So let me begin. If you're interested, there's the QR code. You can hit download this presentation live, or there's the short link if you want it. While you do that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I got my PhD in computational biology, and then I switched tracks and I did my machine learning postdoc in protein functional annotation. And then I switched off and I went into product management and did some other really cool things. So now I completely switched gears out of the biological field into commercial real estate, which is just a totally crazy change, but it's been a lot of fun. So I work at RealMassive. I'm the CTO there, and so I head up technology. And RealMassive is a startup out of Austin doing commercial real estate. We are the first fully open commercial real estate data and marketing platform. And we're here to solve what we call the commercial real estate data problem. This is really just taking the commercial real estate industry from last generation to this generation, or actually from maybe 2 generations ago, and trying to get it technologically up to date. And it's been an interesting challenge. So let me give you a very quick live demo as to how this looks. So, so what you can do is you can search for office space and different types of office space. You can look in Dallas and any of the other markets that we've launched. We're covering over 4 billion square feet of space. And our attempt at solving this data problem, and let me actually clarify what the data problem is. The data problem is the fact that those who own and control all of the commercial real estate data, it's very closed, and they charge you for the simplest access to it. And because of this very non-open nature, it creates inefficiencies in the marketplace everywhere from beginning your lease negotiation to like finding space, to doing the negotiations, to sealing the deal, and to building out at the end. On top of that, because since no one has this information, counties and states and the government have a very difficult time creating the knowledge that they need to know about the commercial real estate industry, and also creating analytics and other BI on top of that. So let me quickly search for some space here. We'll just do Dallas. Okay, so the resolution is obviously tiny, so it's rolling up into like mobile view now because the resolution's it's so small. So I'll skip this. I'll go back to the slides. I've presented before, so my worst case scenario is to make sure you have a backup plan, and here we go. So we have the main page. You can search. On the left, you have the real-time view for the map, and on the right, you have the list results. And you can, if you're searching for space, this is all free. So just go to realmassive.com and start your search. You can save your list of favorites, which you can have on the right there. And you have your profile. You can collaborate with other people and everything else. So what does this have to do with data, right? And we also have a mobile app coming out. So before I talk about data, I want to talk about the value of commercial real estate. This is a real motivating factor here. I really love this example. I made this for a presentation a while back, and it's a great example. So what's the value in commercial real estate? Again, because no one had access to this information before, very few people knew this. So let's do a quick calculation. What's the yearly economic impact of one Class A building in Austin? So this is the Frost Bank Tower, and it's 500,000 square feet, and the average renting rate for it right now is about $51 a square foot, so about $30 a square foot to rent, plus $20 a square foot for operation expenses, which is like insurance and taxes and things like that. So this building has a yearly economic impact of about $26 million in Austin, just if it was fully rented out. And that's not the business that's going on there. That's simply just leasing out this space. $26 million for one building for 1 year. I think that's pretty incredible. And if you take that and you expand it across the U.S., just the U.S., in 2014, the Federal Reserve has calculated that it's worth $15.2 trillion, so the T. The asset base is huge. And this is an industry with outdated data management and search practices. And so we're here to, like I said, bring it into the next generation. So next time you see the skyline, I hope you can have a different appreciation to the value that's floating above the horizon. I mean, look at all those buildings. That was just one building in Austin. It wasn't the biggest, wasn't the nicest, but it's just amazing how much value there is. Okay, so that's the pitch for commercial real estate is valuable. Let's talk about the data portion and how you guys can get access to it. So this is our stack. This is a very simple architecture diagram. At the bottom, we're on the Google Cloud platform. We have chosen Python. You can choose Java or Python. All of our backend work is in Python, and we love it. We've built a REST API on top of that, which is how you guys will get access to the information. And we also have a mobile app and a web app built on there as well. Okay, very simple. Our data. So currently, this is as of a couple days ago, or as of yesterday, we are currently live in 33 markets. We plan to expand out into 99. Currently, we have over 33,000 buildings, covering over 78,000 spaces, and historically, for the past year or so, that's 400,000 edits to those spaces. So we can start to track some historical information as well. And on top of that, because it is a marketing and data platform, we have over 84,000 pieces of media, movies, et cetera, that you guys can get access to for these buildings. And on the right, oh, this is going to be painful. Okay, on the right is a JSON payload that no one can read. We'll see how this goes. So how do you get access to our data? It's really simple. Just use our API, right? Has anybody used Apiary? Have you guys ever heard of Apiary? It's awesome. So Apiary is an API documenting and framework, sort of a testing tool. So how we used to develop APIs is we'd sit down to the editor, we'd set up some routes, and we'd and code them up, and then someone would come along and say, oh, I'd like to use that. We'd go document, and we'd add some tests or whatever, right? This takes a different approach, which is you go in there and you document this in a strict format, in a templated format, and then what happens is that documentation turns into mock code that you can write your application against. And then so you just fill out the template for your routes and set up your mock payloads, and then you can import requests and you can make Python calls against their mock server. It's a beautiful tool. On top of that, it's live. It is documentation. So check out Apiary if you're writing any APIs. Really, really great tool. So our API is RESTful. Everybody's got a RESTful API, right? We support the basic CRUD CRUD operations, create, reading, and updating of records. You can search. Do text search. You can do geo search. You can filter, sort. We support projection queries, and it's also we believe a pretty intuitive layout for the API. So, RESTful APIs have nothing really to say about how you lay out your routes. It's really just a set of constraints on an architecture. But what we've done is because we want people to use the API, we obviously spend a lot of time trying to make it intuitive. So let's talk about the API. So the first thing that we have is markets. And so think commercial real estate. There's residential real estate, and then there's commercial, right? So you live in your house, that's residential. You work in an office building, that's commercial. So we have markets, and a market is a geographic region that we serve, and the endpoint for that is API v1 markets. And if you want to grab an individual market, it's API v1 markets, and then you just give it the unique key string. Now, the trick about markets is a market, as commercial real estate, or CRE, professionals define it, is it's one or more cities. And so it's not just like Austin is a market, Boston is a market, Dallas-Fort Worth combined is a market. So it's multiple cities, okay? And you can also search for markets as well. API v1 markets geo, and you can do a geo search. You just give us a lat long, we'll give you the closest market to that search, or to that point. So, okay, good. So that payload we can read. So the example result from the market search It gives you the last time it was edited at, gives you the list of CBD centers and submarkets, unique keys, the submarkets within it, and the market name. So if you pull it down, you can store this information, and if you want to get a unique market later, you can just get it with a key. Very simple. I think the key here is that, so within a market, we have a list of cities. So you have Dallas, Fort Worth is the market that professionals identify. And in there is what we call the CBD centers. And the CBD centers are a list of cities that comprise that market. And then within the CBD centers, you have the submarkets. Okay, so within markets, you have buildings, right? So buildings go inside markets. These represent the physical buildings that people work in. And the endpoint for that is API v1 buildings. And we try to be consistent. So API v1 buildings key string, you do a get on that route, and you're going to get the information back for a building. And then to do a search, it's API v1 buildings search, and then you provide the list of parameters. Okay, again, following a pretty specific pattern. I'll talk about search in a second because our search is quite quick and very, very flexible. I think this is, for application developers, this is going to be, I think, nice. Okay, so that's kind of hard to read, but let me roll through it because there's some stuff that's kind of interesting. This, again, is a representation of a building, a physical structure. So you have, Boolean, does it have air conditioning? How big is it? What are the units that we're measuring its size in? What's the submarket that it's in? Who do we notify whenever we need to communicate things about this building? What's the parking look like? What market is it in? Does it have sprinklers? What's the building called? And then there's another one called space keys towards the bottom. And this is a list of spaces in the building. So you have a building, and then within the building, you have a bunch of leasable units called spaces, right? And if you want to get access to those, you just grab a space key from that space keys list, and then you do a get on that space key, and I'll show you in a second. Buildings also have type. Are they office, retail, industrial, flex? There's operating expenses. We have a very thorough financial record for each building. That's going to be, it's not out yet. We have a minimal financial record now, but we have a very fleshed out one coming very soon. And zoning, tenancy, just a lot of other things. And then because it has a point on land, we also have the address, the city, the zip, the county, the state, the street. And so if you start thinking about what the information you can get back from this, don't think about serving the commercial real estate community necessarily, but start thinking about financial markets. I can now start pulling down information about these very valuable entities in my city. Question? Yeah. Not yet. So we have. So the question was, do we have the census block for these locations? Not yet. We're working with at least a dozen different data providers to pull in other information, and I just started actually looking into using the free information like census information from the government. Okay, so we had markets, we had buildings, and then now we have spaces, right? These are the typical units of measure which someone is going to promote. And so the endpoint here is API v1 spaces. If you're going to pull down, I sound like a broken record, but if you're going to pull down an individual one, it's API v1 spaces and the key string. And then to search for them, it's API v1 spaces search, and then you provide your list of parameters. I mean, it's like I said, very straightforward. Let me just talk about the payload for spaces. So there's a title. We have, is it featured or promoted, which is, so obviously if it's a marketing platform, people want this in front of as many people as possible. So they will promote spaces, they'll pay for that. We have a short URL so you can get access to this in the future. Is it contiguous or divisible? How much is the marketing manager trying to charge for this? What's the rate per square foot, for example? We have an optimized URL, so it's a pretty URL essentially. The type of rate, and just a bunch of other information that you would need to make an informed decision about the quality of the space for your needs. Okay, I'm not going to roll through the entire API because I'd put everybody to sleep, I'm sure. But I would like to let you know that there are a few other models. We have the user model. So after you log in, API v1 user will bring back your user information. So if you're making an application that supports multiple users, you can auth them into our system and pull back their information. API v1 surveys. So a market survey is a tool that professionals use to it's essentially just a list of their favorite spaces based on a certain criteria. So let's say the VP of Google flies in and says, listen, I need 200,000 square feet in downtown Dallas. It's got to be above the 16th floor because I want my people to have a great view, and it has all these properties or attributes. You can do a search on our system and then add them to your survey for your customer. And then one of the nice features we have on surveys is the ability to find similar spaces to what you have in your survey. So, we have thousands and thousands of spaces, and so you may not know, and we don't even expect you to know what's in the database. So you can hit API v1 surveys and then recommendations, and we'll give you a list of recommendations that look exactly like what you already have in there. There's also the attachments. That's for media and uploads. We also have the version, what current version are we serving, which is API version. And then buildings and spaces now have amenities too. Amenities would be like, this has a gym, or this has a coffee shop, or there's a swimming pool or something like that. It's just a free-form tag, and you can pull those down as well. So now this is, to me, this is where we get kind of interesting. So I now have the supply information. We're recording the demand, which is what people are, when people come to our site, what are they doing? So now we have a marketplace. We have supply and demand. And now, because of the information that we're providing you, I can start to ask some really interesting questions like, well, if I go east of 35, what happens to the average rate per square foot for Class A buildings? Or what happens if I go west of 35? Or what's the occupancy rate of this building? And the last one's a really good example, because if I'm a banker and someone comes to me and says, I'd like to build this $100 million building, as a banker, if everything goes well, I'm going to make 6% on that 100 million. So I'm going to make 6 million off that loan, right? If everything goes south, let's say the building, like they can't lease the building and everything fails, I'm out $100 million. So there's a huge amount of risk. So now, given this, I can report back on the status of the buildings and the spaces and say, hey, your building's at 22% occupancy. If that's the banker, he's going to say, oh, that's terrible. I'm going to get rid of this building. I'm going to sell it to someone. And on the other side, there's someone who wants to take that risk. There's a product where people say, okay, well, it's 22% occupancy, but it's in an area that's being brought up. The crime rate's going down, and I'm going to take that risk. So there's equal sides in this marketplace. Just really interesting potential here, and that no one ever had before. So let me give you a very simple search example. How do you find, if you're going to write code on this, after you do import requests in Python, how are you going to get your spaces? Well, let's say you want to search Dallas. It's just API v1 spaces search, and then you pass in building.address.city is Dallas, right? And then this would return to you the JSON payload, the first page of the entire payload. So in our database, as of yesterday, there were 2,487 spaces that matched that query. And we would return the first 80 to you with a cursor and the search results. What you do then is you take the cursor, you store your 80 results, you take the cursor and pass that back into the same search. And we recognize, hey, that's the cursor, and then we give you page 2. And then we'll give you a new cursor, new results, you pass the cursor back, you get page 3, and so on until the cursor is null, okay? We also have throttling, so we don't want you to suck down the entire database from us and ruin the customer experience for the professionals using the site. So we will throttle you. What you do is just provide exponential backoff. Yeah, that's right. We'll provide exponential backoff in your queries if you're going to do large queries in multiple pages. So what you do is you wait 2 seconds to query again. If you get a 429, you wait 4 seconds again. 429, you wait until you get the result, and then you can continue querying. But look how flexible this can really be now. So I hate dense slides, but this. I just had to type all the text up there. So in order to search, okay, the example is, I want to find all the spaces in Dallas proper that are between $20 a square foot and $32.50 a square foot exclusive, so strictly greater than 20 and strictly less than $32.50, in the Central Expressway submarket that are between 5,500 and 12,200 square feet, inclusive, managed by the management company called Peloton, sorted by increasing rate and decreasing size. So then take those results and then filter out everything but the size, the title, and the geolocation, okay? And so here's what the query would look like. API v1 spaces search, and the parameter list, so building.address.city is Dallas. This wouldn't give you the market of Dallas, but again, just the Dallas city proper. And then building.submarket equals Central Expressway, and the rate equals, and then you'll see the minimum : max. So 20 from 20 to 32.50 a square foot, And if you have parentheses, that's how we do ranges. We just do minimum colon max. That's how you specify a range for our API. And then the parentheses are exclusive, and the brackets are inclusive. So this says find me an exclusive range of 20 to 3250 a square foot, and this says find me the inclusive range from 5500 to 12,200 square feet. Okay, and the building manager's name is Peloton, and okay, now this is the projection. This is the filter, where I say only return to me the space available, the rate, and then the lat and long. And then after you've done that, then I need it sorted by rate, and then you'll see the minus sign right here. That's how you specify decreasing sort on space available. So rates should be going up, and then space should be going down. Here are the results. You'll see that the very first line is cursor is null, and then the very last line, number found is 5. So there's no more pages. I got 5 results. I've elided the list, but you'll see that the first 2 entries are the space available is 9,931 square feet. The second one is 8,263. So you see the space available is decreasing as I asked for, and then the rate is increasing. Okay. So a quick trick for our API, all of our models, the markets, spaces, buildings, surveys, whatever, that are searchable have this extra path here called fields. And it's a self-documenting API. It'll tell you how you can search. So you hit API v1 spaces, search fields, and it will return to you a JSON payload saying, hey, you can search by space and size and rate and so on and so forth. Okay. So now that you know that you have access to the data and where to find it, let me give you just a few examples. I'm almost done here, not taking too much time at all, of just some motivating examples of how you could use this information in your applications. Okay, so I have the demand side of the market, which is people coming to our website. So what I did is we store our results in Keen. I queried Keen and I downloaded 250,000 interactions from Keen. I joined them into our Bigtable database, which I then imported to Mongo. Then I used DC and D3 to create this plot, and this is actually an interactive plot if it's not in the presentation, to show the demand by state. So we're a startup, we've only been around for 16 months, and so this is essentially about 10 to 12 months of data. You'll see that Texas has the highest demand. That we started in Texas, we've been there the longest. We have Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, and then we rolled out to the other states that are not obviously 0. So, okay, so I can measure demand. But I can break this down by county. So now think about going to the local business development organizations in your city and having this level of information for them. I think they'd find it quite useful. So now we have county-based information. And I like this plot. It's actually pretty cool. The supply in Austin. So what I did here is I went to our database and I said, okay, I did the API v1 spaces search. And then I said, give me everything in the Austin market. And then I used a projection query, and I said, give me the lat long of all those spaces, okay? Then I just pulled that down, and I created a heat map using PyMongo and PyMongo, DC, and D3. And I'm sorry, wrong plot. This is just Google Maps. This is a Google Maps heat map, sorry. But what you'll notice is that in downtown Austin, there's a big red glob of spaces. And then you'll notice that there's a pretty good distribution throughout the rest of Austin. So that's the current supply. Those are where people are trying to lease spaces, right? And downtown is obviously the hotspot. I mean, I don't see anything there that seems kind of crazy. Now let's look at the demand. The demand I thought was really interesting. You'll notice that there's hotspots all around Austin. Well, Austin is kind of on fire right now. Downtown's really popular. But what you'll also notice is that there's some really high intensity places that are not in downtown. And this is all qualitative because this plot's like 36 hours old, and I hadn't actually run the math yet. But what I think we're seeing here is that traffic in Austin is getting so bad now that people say, look, downtown's great, but I need to be closer to somewhere that's not downtown, somewhere closer to where I live. Right? And then you'll also notice that if you look at downtown Austin, you see the bright red spot. So downtown, people don't seem to care where you are downtown, just as long as you're downtown. That's what the big red glob says. But if you look at outside of downtown, you notice that where the high intensity plots are, they're pretty much all near highways. That's kind of cool. This is stuff that I don't think, I mean, it's obvious, but I don't think people have ever had this information before and couldn't ask and answer these questions. And then let's look at the rates. It's the same idea. Give me all the spaces. Let's look at the rates. Downtown obviously has a benefit of higher rates, but if you look on the west side, just west of Westlake Hills there, and also south of Austin, you'll see that there are some high intensity spots. So people think they can get higher rates for those areas. Kind of interesting. I can also do frequency of updates because we have the historical data. I can look at how well people are updating their data and try to figure out what's going on. Maybe there's a market where there's much higher churn than another market. Maybe there's a manager who just is fantastic at keeping her data up to date. We could look at that and see that right away. So that's DFW. Here's Austin. So as you see again, downtown has higher churn. So downtown really is the hotspot. But there's that one place just south of the river that has a real high turnover. Kind of interesting. So this is just a list of examples, and I really thank you for your attention. I know this is a complete aside from what you normally would have expected to see here, but I wanted to just let you know that that there's a new data source that has never existed. We're growing it across the nation. There's an extreme amount of value here, and I just wanted to present that to you guys today. I'd like to acknowledge my dev team and launch team at RealMassive. They've done a fantastic job. We have a small team and a startup, and they're killing it. And then also Mike Bostock, I just found he has years of beautifully organized work on geo everything. And so I pulled down some of his information, converted it from GeoJSON and TopoJSON, made the maps so that you guys could see the information. So, and last, and this is really exciting for me. So we're hiring, and so again, I did my postdoc in machine learning, and I love data, and I love getting my hands on data, and especially being the first person to see a new data set, and knowing and getting a chance to explore it and see what's in there. So we're looking for chief data scientist and senior engineer for data science, and as well as other positions. So if you're interested or just want to see what we have or just want to chat, I'm happy just to chat too. Please let me know. Please come find me afterwards. We are hiring, and we have a great culture. People have a lot of fun. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I'll take any questions you guys have. Yeah, the question was, do we track special types of information regarding spaces or buildings? So each building has a type, and it can be office, retail, medical, industrial, or flex space. And we're building that list out there. We have, I think, a list of like 60 or 70 fields. And it doesn't actually belong in the building. That belongs in the space. So we're moving that actually to the space level, because if you go to New York, you'll have mixed, and you'll have retail on the first floor, and then you'll have office throughout the rest. So there's mixed buildings. But yeah, we do track that. Yeah, that's a great question. So what about sort of more flexible uses towards space, I think is the question, right? Do we have stuff of that nature, right? So yes, we have co-working coming. I've already been in contact with many of the co-working organizations in the US. Some of them are pretty excited to get on. We don't have what you're asking for yet, but this platform is fully capable of handling that. So the co-working will be coming soon. we have to do for sale first. So we're doing lease, and then we're doing for sale, and then we'll do land. We're co-working, and there's also another type called lease space, which is our licensed space, which is essentially renting a desk. So you rent, there's this thing they call shadow space, which is you rent 8,000 square feet for your new business. But you only need 6,000, right? So you've got a couple thousand left over. What do you do with it, right? So you put a desk there, you put a few chairs, you got Wi-Fi, you got some sodas, and then you go up and you list that chair to someone who can use your Wi-Fi and your facilities, and you rent those out. That's becoming more and more popular. It's similar to co-working. There's a company that does that as well, and we're going to be using their information as well. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's just. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a very our main competitors make our biggest competitor is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they make $600 million a year off of selling the data. We intend to disrupt that. But because they do such a, I don't want to speak too poorly of them, but they don't do a very good job serving their customers, and so their customers are very happy to give us their information. And so it hasn't been a challenge. It's been, hey, look what we're doing, and would you like to be on the platform? Yes, here's our information. Okay, so we just go straight down the list, top 25 in each market based on land holding and say, or value, and say, would you like to be on the platform? Once number one comes on, we say, hey, number one came on, and go to number two and say, look what they're doing. And it's a competitive advantage. They're very much into it, and the market pretty much falls pretty easily. That's right. And that also helps us get higher quality data as well. So what we do, so I presented you the API side, and there's an entire other side to what we do, and this is creating a suite of tools to help those who manage the data keep their data up to date, keep it fresh, so that the application developers can have real data to use, and the people looking for space have relevant and up-to-date information to use. And so we make these tools to make those people's lives easier so they keep the data up to date. That's right. Yep. I can quantify how many hours a week or month I can save. I can take the average I can guesstimate the salary, and as long as I'm capturing a fraction of that value, I'm set. Yeah. Yep. So that was the demand slide. We're tracking, so we do track demand. We haven't yet opened that up for API developers to pull down yet. We just haven't gotten there. We're trying to make sure that the main thing is let's get the data into our system, let's keep it fresh, and then we can build out from there. But yeah, that's what that slide is. And I can't wait to see that too, even more and more, but yeah. Yeah. And on top of that, once we have the market, supply and demand, then business intelligence comes on there, analytics tools that you guys can hit from API routes, not just pulling down space and building information and doing the work yourselves. So right now the industry uses quarterly reports. What will happen is, so someone will go do research for 4 to 6 weeks on the past 90 days, and then they do this work, and then they distribute the information. That's now 120, 150 days old, and it's so far out of date, but that's the best they have, and they're making informed decisions on that. I intend to create an endpoint that collects information directly from the system now and downloads your PDF, and here you go. No longer is it a quarterly report, it's a trailing quarterly report from now. And so you get up-to-date risk information and all sorts of timely information. Yeah. 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 So good question. So the first one was, we're awesome. Thank you. It's a lot of hard work, and the teams they're very diligent, very sedulous at what they do. But again, because our customers are underserved and they want to get off the other platform, that conversation has really been a lot easier than we expected. And why App Engine? We have a good time with App Engine. I see it as as a time to market thing for me. So we could go pure. I could go pure DevOps where I built up everything. I could go pure App Engine, which is essentially 100% managed, or I could do EC, the Amazon Web Services, which are I think somewhere in the middle. Our team's so small right now that I'm gonna offload whatever I can and make sure my guys are developing instead of trying to set up even if they try to pull up a managed machine in the cloud, they're not coding, they're not creating, so that's why it just works for us. And in the back. Yeah, so the question is, do we overlay other information on top of our information? The answer is we don't yet, but we definitely have plans to. Crime rates, traffic rates. One of the features I want to build in is you provide the addresses of let's say your team, and then you take that survey tool I showed you, which is your favorites list, and then you can calculate best traffic times to and from, and take that in as a dimension. That you have more than just rate and size and floor number. Now it takes you 22 minutes to get there in traffic and then 40 to go home or something like that. That's going to really inform you. We don't have that yet, but we're starting. We're just now to the point where I got to hire my chief data science officer, and we're going to roll all that in. Yep. Any others? You guys have been, yeah. And there's been so many. None stand out as, well, it wasn't the data collection. I think one of the reasons why, all right, so I don't know how to answer your question because there's so many pitfalls. But I did want to say, sort of addressing one of your comments, was other companies have failed at doing this because they have not taken the time to properly listen to the customers. What they've done is they rush in and say, hey, I'm a technologist, I can solve your problems. You're using last generation technology, this is easy. And they come in and they compete with well-established personas in the marketplace, in the business model that they shouldn't be competing with. Or they focus on the wrong people at the wrong time, and it kills their data. So luckily, we have a very sort of servant leadership approach to how we run the company. We listen to customers very, very closely to figure out what they need and what they're not going to do. And then there's just a lot of really small, like seemingly small decisions that you can make that if you're not paying attention to your customers will sink the effort. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your attention. Great questions. Feel free to talk to me afterwards if you have any more. And if you want API tokens to get access to the API, let me know. Like I said, it is free of charge, so you guys can get at it. Awesome. Thanks for your attention.